The subconscious is not the only dream builder. This is what he said in the previous one. Remember what the subconscious is? The subconscious is between the waking consciousness and the inconscient. The inconscient is absolutely not aware of the physical world at all, and our waking consciousness is aware of the physical world, but most imperfectly. We don't see the reality, we see only the outer forms. So the subconscious is just below that. It's a type of dream, it's a type of consciousness which is in our sleep, for instance. Okay, so the subconscious is not the only dream builder, but what is the subconscious? Okay, the subconscious is the intermediate layer of consciousness between the surface awareness of our body mind life, and the inconscient. It's in between the two. The subconscious is a storehouse of all impressions of the past. Everything that has happened is stored there. Okay? And you can always discover it also. By going into the intraconscient, you can discover it. Okay. In sleep, our consciousness sinks from the surface into the subconscious, where all the impressions of the past jostle with each other and produce incoherent or sometimes meaningless or confused dreams. Okay? And when the consciousness goes down, further down or inwards, down is inconscient, you won't remember, but inwards is the intraconscient. There is dreamless sleep. There are dream activities, but they are not remembered. Okay? Your subtle body, your subtle being is experiencing things on the subtler planes of consciousness, but you don't remember them. Sometimes you remember, but you think that they are unreal. The impressions of the past are suppressed, but not erased in the inconscient. In the inconscient, they are there and they can be recovered. That is the reason why, if you go into your intraconscient, everything that has happened in the world, everything is recorded. Nothing, not a single thing is not recorded. Individual things, historical things at the universal level, wars and even individual lives, everything is recorded. You have to only focus and get it. It's like going to a library and saying, I want this particular book of this author. So I go to the index cards, and then I go to the either the author or the subject, and then I look, and then I see where it is, and then I go up 1 floor, 2 floors. Even in the library, our ashram library, we do that. We open the I don't know what it's called, the cupboard like thing where all the things are stored, and then you see where it is stored. Oh, it's on the 3rd floor, and the 2nd shelf, it is there, that book that I'm looking for. Exactly in the same way, this is also what you have to do in the intraconscient. There is a very interesting meditations on Savitri. Mother has given Huta the drawing. Okay, she told her, you make this drawing. It's exactly like that. Okay, there's a drawing. Meditations on Savitri, if you check, the intraconscient there is very clearly described just like that. Okay, you can recover anything you want. Everything is recorded, but they are not remembered. The impressions of the past are suppressed, but are not erased in the inconscient. So when they are suppressed, you may not remember. The waking mind does not understand the laws and processes of the inconscient and the subconscient because they are different in nature. This is what he said in the previous para. Okay. So now we'll read the one we have to read today and go sentence by sentence. But in fact, in what we call dreamless sleep, we have gone into a profounder and denser layer of the subconscious, a state too involved, too immersed, or too obscure. Okay? So just see that. Involved, immersed, and obscure. He is giving you 3 levels. Slightly involved, deeper down it is immersed, plunged into the sea, or too obscure. If you think of the sea, you can see these 3 levels. Involved is almost on the surface, too immersed is a little deeper down, and obscure means absolutely down below when you go down into the sea, there's no light at all. dull and heavy, to bring to the surface its structures. And we are dreaming there, but unable to grasp or retain in the recording layer of subconscious these more obscure dream figures. So when you go down into the subconscious, very difficult to retain what you are experiencing down there. I'll tell you something interesting. Even mother, okay, she had once a very interesting dream which she described in great detail. But she said some of the details are gone because these images are all evanescent. They are very, very transient. They are there and then they disappear. So it's very difficult to, but if you go down again, you can recover the image. But that's not so easy and sometimes it's not worth the trouble. That's why mother had once an experience of the universal, so she described it as a huge hotel, okay, where everything is fluid and everything is going on changing. She said, very interesting, but that is not our subject now, so we won't discuss it. So, so even she had these dreams. Everybody has dreams. Even Sri Lanka has so many dreams. Naturally, the human part will obviously have dreams. Or, I read the next sentence, or else it may be the part of our mind which still remains active in the sleep of the body has entered into the inner domains of our being, the subliminal mental, subliminal vital, subtle physical, and there lost to all active connection with the surface parts of us. So first description he has given, going down into the subconscious. Now he is starting the sentence with or else. So now he has shifted his focus and is going into the intraconscious. And the intraconscious he is describing as subtle, subliminal mental, subliminal vital, and subtle physical. This is the first layer inside. Then the intraconscious is this. Even deeper if you go, you have the intraconscious, and even deeper if you go, you have the psychic being. Okay? So this subliminal, the word subliminal means below the surface. Actually, it's not below the surface, it's horizontally hidden. It's not really below, but inside. Okay, subliminal mind, subtle physical, and there lost to us, and is there lost to us, lost to all active connection with the surface parts. So when you go down to the subconscious, likely you won't remember dreams, and even if you remember, you're very confused, okay, and fanciful. But if you go into your intraconscious, if your consciousness is very open, then you will remember the dreams, and they are often very meaningful. That's what he will come to a little later on. Okay, so, but there also you are likely not to remember. If we are still in the nearer depths of these regions, the surface subconscious, which is our sleep wakefulness. Now note the word sleep wakefulness. You are half asleep. Okay? Sleep wakefulness with a hyphen records something of what we experience in these depths. But it records it in its own transcription, often marred by characteristic incoherences, and always, even when most coherent, deformed or cast into figures drawn from the world of waking experience. Because all these deeper layers of consciousness are not of the same nature as a waking life. So naturally, to make you understand, you have to use your own language. It's like talking to someone who doesn't know your language. You have to use his language. So the language of the waking consciousness is not the same as the language of the subconscious or the intraconscious. So they have to translate it into your language, which is the surface consciousness. That's what Srimati is saying. Okay, he's saying, but it records it in its own transcription. That's what he means by language. Okay? It records it in its own transcription, often marred by characteristic incoherences, and always, even when most coherent, deformed or cast into figures drawn from the world of waking experience. Okay? The Vedas are full of all these images, and sometimes it makes absolutely no sense. That's the reason why Max Muller said that it is a childish nonsense, some of them, okay? Because he doesn't understand. For instance, the sun Okay, the rays of the sun are described as cows. How can the sun produce cows? So when you don't know the symbolism, then you think it is nonsense. When I used to read in the archives with my proofreading partner, we used to come across certain images which are absolutely ridiculous. Okay, but they have a meaning. That's the whole point. We have to uncover the meaning. So, now, he is saying, if we are still in the nearer depths of these regions, the surface subconscious, which is our sleep wakefulness, records something of what we experience in these depths. But it records it in its own transcription, often marred by characteristic incoherences and always, even when most coherent, deformed or cast into figures drawn from the world of waking experience. But if we have gone deep inward, the record fails and it cannot be recovered, and we have the illusion of dreamlessness. But the activity of the inner dream consciousness continues behind the veil of the now mute and inactive subconscious surface. The surface has gone to sleep and therefore it does not record what is going on inside. But it does go on inside. It's like activity going on inside the house. You are at the front room and you don't know what's going on inside. But it does go on. In fact, Surendra says in one place that even when we are in our waking life, okay, part of our inner being is going on active. Our in the subliminal mind, in the subliminal vital and the subtle physical, things are going on. Yeah, I'll give you one instance where you will immediately see that yes, there is possibility of several things going on at the same time. No? Suppose you are reading something, the mind will go on reading that, but your mind is going somewhere else. You will think of what I have to do tomorrow. If you are if you have observed this, you will see that two activities are possible at the same time. I have noticed this in myself. When I am reading, even Life Divine and Synthesis, my mind will go somewhere else. What do I have to do tomorrow? What is the next thing to be done? The mind has gone somewhere else. But the surface mind is continuing to read the text. Okay, so this sort of thing can happen. This continued dream activity is revealed to us when we become more inwardly conscious. In other words, the intra-conscient experiences, your consciousness be capable of going into the intra-conscient. And that is possible when you are in a good, clear condition of consciousness. But when you are not in a clear condition of consciousness, the intra-conscient activity you will not remember. This continued dream activity is revealed to us when we become more inwardly conscious. For then we get into connection with the heavier and deeper subconscious stratum and can be aware at the time, or by retracing or recovering through memory of what happened when we sank into these torpid depths, torpid dark. It is possible too to become conscious deeper within our subliminal selves, and we are then aware of experiences on other planes of our being, or even in supra-physical worlds. So not only intraconscient, but even superconscient, we can go. Okay? To which sleep gives us a right of secret entry. Okay? That's what happens in Samadhi. The yogi consciously closes his eyes and makes his consciousness go inward, and then there is absolute, it's not a sleep. Okay? You are fully awake, but your mind has gone up and you experience things on the subtler planes. Gives us the right of secret. So, sleep is giving you the right of secret entry, but it does not give you the right of remembrance. That's the funny part. But if your consciousness is very developed and very aware, and you are in a clear level of consciousness, then you remember your dreams. Become very useful. A transcript of such experiences reaches us. But the transcriber here is not the subconscious, it is subliminal, a greater dream builder. So the subconscious is a dream builder, of confused images. But when your consciousness is open, the intra-conscient is a much, much clearer and better, greater dream builder. Okay? So now also you have to remember about going into the supraconscient. He has talked about the subconscient, where the dreams are chaotic and very confused. You go into the intraconscient, there also they are all in images and metaphors and similes if you want. But in the superconscient, you can go into in your samadhi consciousness. So let's read further. Okay, so he has already dealt with the two, below and inside. Now let's see what he has to say about the inside. One of you has to read. If the subliminal thus comes to the front. Any one of you? Okay.
If the subliminal first comes to the front in our dream consciousness, there is sometimes an activity of our subliminal intelligence. Dream becomes a series of thoughts, often strangely or vividly figured. Problems are solved which our waking consciousness could not solve. Warnings, premonitions, indications of the future, vertical dream replace the normal subconscious incoherence. There can come also a structure of symbol images, some of the mental character, some of the vital nature. The former are precise in their figures, clear in their significance. The latter are often complex and baffling to our waking consciousness. But if we can seize the clue, they reveal their own sense and a peculiar system of coherence. Finally, there can come to us the records of happenings seen or experienced by us on other planes of our own being or of universal being into which we enter. These are sometimes, like the symbolic dreams, a strong bearing on our own inner and outer life or the life of others, reveal elements of our or their mental being and life being, or disclose influences on them of which our waking itself is totally ignorant. But sometimes they have to such bearing and are purely records of other organized system of consciousness independent of our physical existence. The subconscious dream constitute the bulk of our most ordinary sleep experience, and they are those which we usually remember. But sometimes the subliminal builder is able to impress our sleep consciousness sufficiently to stamp his activities on our waking memory. If we develop our inner being, live live or more inwardly than most men do, then the balancing is changed and a larger dream consciousness opens before us. Our dreams can take on a subliminal and no longer a subconscious character and can assume a reality and significance.
There you are. So we'll read each sentence, but he is saying very clearly the subconscious is often very, very confused images you get. Okay? But when you go to the subliminal or the intraconscious, your dreams that you get can be symbolic and also very, very meaningful. Okay? This is the, and if you go to the letters, you will see people are asking about their dreams and similarly interpreting. Okay. We'll discuss the nature of these symbols a little later after we finish this para. There are three types of symbols. I think we discussed it once, but anyway, I'll tell you. Now, if the subliminal, I'm reading each sentence. If the subliminal thus comes to the front in our dream consciousness, there is sometimes an activity of our subliminal intelligence. The dream becomes a series of thoughts, often strangely and vividly figured. Problems are solved which our waking consciousness could not solve. Warnings, premonitions, indications of the future, veridical dreams replace the normal subconscious incoherence. Let's look at each phrase. It's very interesting what he's saying. Dream becomes a series of thoughts, often strangely or vividly figured. Okay, so you can have all sorts of things which have significance. Okay, so one was when one is in a very good level of consciousness, you see dreams which tell you the future and also tell you the condition of your own inner being. Okay, they tell you. I'll just give you one or two examples and then you will see how interesting it becomes. Okay, so once, well, we are recording, huh? Oh, okay, it doesn't matter. I'll tell you. So I'm at the tennis ground and I'm watching the sun in the early morning coming up. Okay, and the sun is coming up, beautiful, red, glowing. It comes up, and around about 9 o'clock. Okay, the sun is quite high, but it's at 9 o'clock, about 2 hours or 3 hours after the sunrise, and suddenly the sun disappears. Okay, now this is what Srindra is saying here, strangely and vividly figured. So what could it mean? It has a meaning, but you have to uncover the meaning. Sometimes you can't uncover it immediately, it takes a long time. And sometimes we've seen dreams where for 2-3 years you don't understand what's happening. And suddenly you come across one phrase or an explanation by Sri Aurobindo, and then you say, oh my God, now it's so clear to me. There was a time when continuously, for days and days on end, I used to see the train, not the train, but the locomotive, okay, going on the train tracks. Okay, so I couldn't understand why am I seeing this image of constantly this engine going up and down, up and down. Okay, then one day I got the explanation in those texts somewhere. He mentioned what that is. So this was saying, strangely or figured, vividly figured. Problems are solved in our waking consciousness. I remember when I was a student, okay, there was one mathematics teacher who had given us a problem to solve, and it was quite difficult. Okay. But one day when I woke up, I knew the problem was solved. So that's exactly what he's saying, okay? Mathematical problem. Waking consciousness could not solve, then warnings. Okay, it's very interesting. many mother has told many interesting stories about warnings. Okay, in her text there are warnings. I will give you one instance of this warning. Okay, one person told mother that she had a dream, and the dream was she saw a person whom she did not know. Okay, this person saw a person who did not know, but she felt that there was something very strange about his demeanor. Okay, something very strange in his character. Then the next day she had this dream, and when she went to her office or whatever, wherever it was, and she wanted to go into the lift, suddenly she saw, okay, that this man that she has seen in the dream is there inside the lift. And then she had an inkling of something, I said, my God, this is not good. And she came out. Okay? This is mother's story. And then that lift crashed and the man died. Okay? So you get a warning. Look, I'm not making up this. It is there in mother's talks. So you get a warning and then you avoid. So then you have premonitions, things of what are to come. Okay? Indications of the future. You know what will happen to you. You know what will happen to others. All that sort of thing can happen. Veridical dreams, dreams that are absolutely based on truth. Okay. Replace the normal subconscious incoherence. No more, the dreams are not incoherent anymore. And even if they appear to be incoherent, like the sun disappearing, it doesn't happen in the physical world. But it must be having a symbol. And what that symbol is, you have to uncover. They have a clear message. There can come also a structure of symbol dream, images, symbol dreams. Some of a mental character, some of a vital nature. The former are precise in their figure, clear in their significance. Okay? So you can have in the mental world, when you are in the subliminal mind, you can be in the subliminal vital, and you can also be in the subtle physical. So depending on that, the nature of the dream also reveal itself. So Srindra is saying here, when it's a mental character, very precise in the figure, clear in the significance. The latter, that means the vital ones, are often complex and baffling to our waking consciousness. But if we can seize the clue, they reveal their own sense and peculiar system of coherence. This is the interesting thing. Once you get the clue, then you know what exactly is happening. Many children have told me, okay, their dreams, and they go on, these things go on getting repeated. When dreams get repeated, they have a meaning, and you must try and understand what it is. One child told me that she used to have constantly dreams of she's missing the train. Okay? Whenever she's going, she's missing the train, just by a short time. So, obviously it's got a message. Okay? But what that is, the person himself has to discover. Because these symbols that he's talking about, symbol images, there are three types. I think one day we have discussed it. I just briefly tell you. One is, they are conventional symbols. Okay? Fire, for instance, means a burning. Okay? And mountain means a height. In consciousness also it can mean height. When you see a horse, it means power. Okay? So these are conventional symbols. Just like a red traffic light, it means stop. Okay? So this is a convention. You could have replaced that red light with another light. It's a convention. So there are conventional symbols. Okay? So, then there are universal symbols. Universal symbols are, as I told you about the mountain, okay? The mountain is a universal symbol. And when you see a storm in your dream, it means troubles ahead for you. So these are universal symbols, okay? Or a scorpion is coming towards you, there is going to be trouble for you, okay? So these are all universal symbols. Then there are personal symbols which are related to you and your consciousness. That also I give you an example, I'll tell you. Suppose you see someone and your impression of that person is, he is a very angry person, let us say, or a very selfish person, okay? When you see that that person in your dream is dead, it can often mean that that element in you, okay, the selfishness or the capacity of getting angry is dying out. That's what it means. Very interesting. So, what has given you birth? For instance, I'll give you another. The symbols is fantastic, very interesting, very, very interesting. Okay, I'll give you another one. Okay, who has given you birth? Your mother, right? Your mother has given you birth. That can become a symbol. In the physical world, who has given you your body, your vital, and your mind? Universal nature. Okay, right? So, very clear. So, in the physical world, the universal nature has given birth to your body, mind, life, which is your nature. If you are dreaming, and I have come across this very interesting, at least 2 cases, they have reported to me that this is what happened. They are seeing that their mother is dying. So tell me, what would that symbol mean? Very clearly. Your nature, old nature is dying, and your new nature is being born. Okay. So here are symbols that come. And then, but these symbols, you must not think that they are absolute. You must go on very carefully, watching yourself and seeing whether they have a real content in waking life. Then it becomes interesting. Otherwise, they are not. Then you will start building up all sorts of things and theories which will not always be true. Okay, so this is what they is saying. Okay. Baffling to our waking consciousness. But if you can see the clue, okay, clear in their significance. The latter are often complex and baffling to our waking consciousness. But if we can seize the clue, they reveal their own sense and peculiar system of coherence. Finally, there can come to us the records of happenings seen or experienced by us on other planes of our being or of universal being, into which we enter. So that means real events on the subtler planes of consciousness. These have sometimes, like the symbolic dreams, a strong bearing on our own inner and outer life or the life of others, reveal elements of our or their mental being and life being, or disclose influences on them of which our waking self is totally ignorant. I'll give you one instance, okay? Mother was seeing everybody's hands. When we were small children, we used to have classes in the guest house, which is behind the playground. On the western side of the playground, there is a guest house. Okay. And she used to, in the courtyard there, we used to have our classes. And one day she started seeing everybody's hands. And she saw so many hands, and then she saw one person's hand, and she suddenly became serious and didn't say anything and went away. Then this person went and asked her afterwards, Mother, you didn't say anything about my hand and you suddenly became serious and went away. What have you seen? Mother told her that your lifeline is very short. Okay. And then Mother did what had to be done. So how would she know? She is seeing only the physical symbol on the hand, but her consciousness has gone deep inside and seen the truth of that. Okay. And naturally, Mother did what had to be done, and that person is still living. Okay. But had to go through a very, very difficult period in life. So it was Mother who changed destiny. They have the power to do that. So you can go into the intraconscious and know the truths of things to come, okay, future. That's what I'm saying also, no? He's saying sometimes they have no, I'll read the next sentence. Finally, there come to us records of happenings seen or experienced by us on other planes of our being or of universal being into which we enter. I spoke about not dreams, but going into the intraconscious to see the truths. That's what I gave you the example just now. It's not a dream, but she saw the truth on the subtler planes of consciousness. Like the symbolic dreams, a strong bearing on our own inner and outer life or the life of others. That's why I gave you that example. Reveal elements of our or their mental being and life being, or disclose influences on them of which our waking self is totally ignorant. Sometimes when we had to go to Madras for work, okay, she used to allow the car to be used. But sometimes she used to delay it because she would see that there is something which is not very pleasant going to happen, and she used to delay it. Okay? Then we see, oh my God, if I had gone one day earlier when Mother did not give me permission, I would have had an accident. But when she gave me permission the next day, there was no problem. Everything went smoothly. Afterwards, you come to know. But the previous day, there was an accident on the highway. Okay, things like that. Influences, seeing the future. But sometimes they have no such bearing and are purely records of other organized systems of consciousness independent of our physical existence. You can see the future, you can see other things. The subconscious dreams constitute the bulk of our most ordinary sleep experience, and they are those which we usually remember. But sometimes the subliminal builder is able to impress our sleep consciousness sufficiently to stamp his activities on our waking memory. So Indra is using a very interesting, he's saying sometimes the subliminal builder, okay, is able to impress our sleep consciousness sufficiently to stamp his activities. He's not saying its activities. He's almost got remember, there's a mental Purusha, vital Purusha, and a physical Purusha, okay, in the intraconscious. So that's why he's using the word his activities. See how important that word becomes. He's not saying subliminal its activities. He's saying his activities. It's a reflection of the Purusha. There is a Purusha, a conscious being in the inner mind. The mind is represented by a conscious being, the mental Purusha, the vital Purusha, in a being, and our waking memory. If we develop our inner being, that means you become conscious of your, by going deep into yourself. Live more inwardly than most men do, then the balance is changed and a larger dream consciousness opens before us. Our dreams can take on a subliminal and no longer a subconscious character and can assume a reality and a significance. And then it can become also a guidance for life if you have the good fortune of having the capacity to go into your intraconscious, then there can be guidance from within also. Don't do this, do that. This is your condition of your consciousness. This is what you should do. All sorts of guidance also can come. Okay? So, 27. We have got 13, 14 minutes. So, 13 minutes. We read one more paragraph. It is even possible to become wholly conscious in sleep. So, let's do that. So,
Shall I read?
Would you like?
yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Lord Sunki, any one of you.
Okay, I will read.
Okay, go ahead. It is even possible.
It is even possible to become wholly conscious in sleep and follow throughout from beginning to end, or over large stretches, the stages of our dream experience. It is found that then we are aware of ourselves, passing from state after state of consciousness to a brief period of luminous and peaceful dreamless rest, which is the true restorer of the energies of the waking nature, and then returning by the same way to the waking consciousness. It is normal, as we thus pass from state to state, to let the previous experiences slip away from us. In the return, only the more vivid experiences slip away from us. I'm sorry. In the return, only the more vivid or those nearest to the waking surface are remembered, but this can be remedied. A greater retention is possible, or the power can be developed of going back in memory from dream to dream, from state to state, till the whole is once more before us. A coherent knowledge of sleep life, though difficult to achieve to keep established, is possible.
Not a very big paragraph. You can do it today itself. You can finish it. So, what he's saying is, it's possible to become wholly conscious in sleep and follow throughout from beginning to end or over large stretches the stages of our dream experience. You can also, but you need to be a yogi for that. It is found that then we are aware of ourselves passing from state to after state of consciousness to a brief period of luminous and peaceful, dreamless rest, which is a true restorer of our energies of the waking nature, and then returning by the same way to the waking consciousness. Actually, Mother says that even when you are not conscious in your sleep, there is a point where you go, everybody knows about that. No? Yasmin also was mentioning the other day that there is 10 minutes of your 8 hours or 6 hours sleep where you enter into the deepest layer of your consciousness. It can be Satchidananda or whatever, and there you get your real rest. The rest of it sometimes is very disturbed sleep, and even if it is not disturbed, you don't get the real rest. But the real rest is there at the deepest layer. Okay. 10 minutes. Mother says 10 minutes. So that's very safe. So it is even possible to become wholly conscious in sleep and follow throughout from beginning to end or over large stretches the stages of our dream experience. It is found that then we are aware of ourselves passing from state after state of consciousness to a brief period of luminous and peaceful dreamless rest. Note the word brief period. Mother speaks of 10 minutes of your 8 hours or 6 hours sleep. Okay? Brief period. You get a real rest, which is a true restorer of the energies of the waking nature. Then returning by the same way to the waking consciousness. You go deep inside and then you come out. And if you touch that highest level, 10 minutes of rest is more than enough. It is normal, as we thus pass from state to stage, to let the previous experiences slip away from us. In the return, only the more vivid or those nearest to the waking surface are remembered. But this can be remedied. A greater retention is possible, and the power can be developed of going back in memory from dream to dream, from state to state, until the whole is once more before us. We can recover by remembrance. That's why Mother says that when you get up, don't be in a hurry to get up. Just remain calm and quiet and think of what you were dreaming before just waking up. And then you can trace it back. But normally the physical world's call on us is very strong, and we wake up and we start seeing the physical world, and that pulls our consciousness outwards. So that's why it's very difficult. A coherent knowledge of sleep life, though difficult to achieve or to keep established, is possible. By the way, why is he discussing all these dream things? Because the cosmic illusion, Shankara gave the example of dream, which is unreal. Now he is telling you very clearly that dream life is not unreal at all. It is very, very real, but it's on a subtler plane of consciousness. And it can be so clear that it can give you warnings, it can give you guidance, it can give you premonitions of what is to come, it can give you guidance. All these things are possible. That's what he's saying. Okay? 834. So, next we will read this one. Our subliminal self is not. Okay? Since we are, our subliminal self is not. So, au revoir, everybody. Have a nice day.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay, Asmi.
Thank you.
Archana Di.
Thank you, Rangada.
Au revoir.
Thank you.
Okay.